October 2001. And this month, really nothing to talk about. Um, After September 2001, what's October going to bring us? Nothing but Halloween. Still working at Frame Art Galleries and reading a lot of books. So let's jump in. And the first book I read in October of 2001 was House of Secrets by James A. Moore and Kevin Murphy. Yes, that James A. Moore. This is a novel based on the White Wolf Publishing World of Darkness card game, Vampire the Eternal Struggle. So that's the card game based on the role playing game, Vampire the Masquerade. And in this book, you've got Ilsa from Clan Tremere, and she's looking for a human mage for some reason. And then we have Kurt from the Ventru, I believe, who is trying to find out what Ilsa's up to, but they end up, I think they team up because there's a lot of stuff going on that could spell the end for vampires everywhere. So if you're into vampires, if you're into hierarchy and clans of different clans of vampires, if you like James A. Moore, not a bad book to read. All right, that was a terrible ending to what I was talking about. Next up, we have once again A Prayer for the Dying by Jack Higgins. This is about an IRA, Irish Republican Army, hitman who wants out. He's got to take one more job. It involves killing a mobster, but it's witnessed by a priest. And things go crazy from there. One of my favorite books of all time. This has got to be like the sixth or seventh time that I've talked about it in this series of videos. I just love it. That's why I'm flying through it. I've talked about it quite a bit. Then we have Death in Paradise by Robert B. Parker. This is the third Jesse Stone novel. And in this one, a dead girl washes up on shore. She didn't drown. It wasn't an accident. It was murder. It's Jesse Stone, police chief of Paradise, is trying to figure out who killed her and why her parents not only don't want to claim the body, don't want to admit that she's their daughter. It's just good Robert B. Parker stuff. My mother's a huge fan of Jesse Stone. She's read all the books. She has all the movies on DVD. I prefer Parker, but the Jesse Stone books are good. I followed that up with Crimson Skies, Wings of Justice, Book 1, Rogue Flyer by Lauren L. Coleman. It was based on the Crimson Skies video game, tabletop game, where America has sort of been broken apart, I think, during the Civil War. And so land-based travel really isn't a thing because of all the different nations or whatever they're called, I don't know, within the former United States. So it's all sky travel, zeppelins and planes and all that stuff. And in this story, we have the character is, where is it? Trevor Rogue Reese, who's going to go from sort of a golden boy pilot to a pirate with a heart of gold. Just fun, pulpy, action adventure type stuff. But after that, we have In the Flesh by Clive Barker, which is technically, I believe, Books of Blood, Volume 5. But this has 4 stories. I believe that's all it is. In the Flesh, I'm going to skip one, leave it to the end. So we have In the Flesh, the title story, The Madonna, Babel's Children, and then The Forbidden, which is the story that the movie Candyman is based on. It's Clive Barker. It has one of his classic stories, and then some other just generally cool Clive Barker stuff. The man's got an amazing imagination, writes some really weird, amazing, even if they're not horror, they're just they'll make you think. In the Flesh, Clive Barker. Great stuff. Excuse me. All right. Then we have American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Look at the size of this book. This is not the copy that I read. This is updated and expanded with the author's preferred text. I've not read this copy yet. I need to. There's a whole bunch of extra stuff in here. This is about a guy named Shadow. He's just gotten out of prison. His wife and best friend are killed in an accident, and he is recruited to be, what does it say, a bodyguard, driver, and errand boy for the enigmatic trickster Mr. Wednesday. What I remembered about this most is that it's essentially about old gods versus new gods, and how belief changes pantheons. So now there's like a god of technology, and the things that modern people worship now have their own gods. Made into a TV show. I have not seen a single episode, but absolutely loved this book. One that I do need to reread because this has material that I have not read. Then we have Captain's Outrageous by Joe R. Lansdale, a Hap and Leonard novel. And in this one, Hap is working as a security guard at a poultry farm. Poultry plant, excuse me. And some stuff goes down. He and Leonard end up winning a trip to Mexico, on a trip to Mexico. Suddenly, a spontaneous off-duty act of rescue earns Hap and his best friend Leonard Pine a cruise down the Gulf of Mexico to the Caribbean. But they end up in Mexico and sort of stranded in Mexico, and craziness ensues. Of course, they get involved with criminals and people that need help and all sorts of craziness. I think this is the one that's possibly my least favorite of the Hap and Leonards. Maybe I wasn't in the right mood for it. I think it's definitely one of the crazier ones. Just all sorts of crazy stuff going on. I'll definitely have to reread this one and see how I feel about it. Still good stuff. I mean, it's Joe Lansdale and it's Hap and Leonard. So it's like a 9.9 instead of a 10. But Captain's Outrageous by Joe R. Lansdale. Hap and Leonard, you can't go wrong reading anything with Hap and Leonard. Then we have Zeppelin's West by Joe R. Lansdale. I have a book over there that has Zeppelin's West and Flaming London. I did not pull it off the shelf. It's the Ned the Seal stories. And in Zeppelin's West is the first one. And it's this crazy mix of stuff. You've got an old Wild West show, and they're being attacked by the Japanese. I don't know. They're in a Zeppelin. It goes down on Dr. Moreau's island, and there's Frankenstein and the Tin Man and Dracula. So there's just all these characters thrown in with these Old West legends, and just craziness ensues. It's really wild in a different way than Captain's Outrageous. I really, really love this book because of the craziness. Dropping my notebook. Zeppelin's West, Joe R. Lansdale. If you just want a bunch of pulpy goodness with some real people, historical figures, and public domain characters. The sequel is Flaming London, which eventually we'll get to in this list, and that is more of the same. This is great. Of course, I love Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, Dr. Moreau, all sorts of great stuff. After that was Pain Management by Andrew Vax. This is a Burke novel. Burke, there was an assassination attempt on Burke in the previous novel, and now he's missing and presumed dead in New York. But he's living in the Pacific Northwest, and his current girlfriend there wants him to look for a teenage runaway. And he agrees to do it, but of course he doesn't have all the resources, all the friends, all the contacts, everything that he has back in New York, he's missing here in the Pacific Northwest. And so he's sort of building these things from the ground up, doesn't have everything he would normally have to search for this missing girl, and of course gets involved in the criminal element, and all sorts of stuff. But it's Andrew Vax, it's Burke, it's fantastic. Then we have Psyman, P-S-I, Psyman Stalker by Peter David, part of the Psyman series. The main character is Chuck Simon, and in Stalker, he is on a runaway bullet train and dealing with a shape-shifting psychotic killer. Just crazy, sort of falls under that men's adventure, the stuff published by Gold Eagle. And Chuck Simon has, psychic powers. He's the Psyman. He's got a talking dog. Don't know if the talking dog is still in this one. A telepathic dog, anyway. They can communicate telepathically. But yeah, just crazy stuff like bullet train, a shapeshifter, and all that stuff. Psyman Stalker by Peter David. And then right after that, I read Psyman Haven by Peter David. And now Chuck Simon in this one is in the ruins of New York. Is this post-apocalyptic? What's going on? He's just in the, ruins of New York with amnesia. Might not even remember that he has psychic powers, and he's being hunted by a cyborg. Craziness. I was reading some crazy stuff in October of 2001. The penultimate book that I read in October of 2001 is Elementary, My Dear Groucho by Ron Goulart. And this is a Groucho Marx mystery. In this one, someone is murdered on the set of a Sherlock Holmes movie that is being made. And Groucho is here to solve it. If you're a fan of Groucho Marx or the Marx Brothers type of humor, these are really entertaining books. I am a Groucho Marx fan. So I like the mystery. I like the blending of fiction and real world characters and things, and I like the humor. It's just filled with that Groucho Marx type of humor. And then the final book that I read in October of 2001 is Critical Space by Greg Rucka. This is an Atticus Kodiak novel, and in a previous novel, Atticus had a run-in with a professional assassin named Drama. And in this book, Drama is being hunted, and so she wants to hire Atticus to protect her, to help her stay alive. Atticus doesn't want to do it, and so Drama, being a professional assassin, I think kidnaps someone that Atticus is supposed to be protecting, basically forces him, blackmails him into helping her survive being hunted. And it's Greg Rucka. It's Atticus Kodiak. It's good stuff. I'm a huge fan of Greg Rucka. I really want to go back and reread those books. So much to reread, but so much new stuff to read. But if you like action, thrillers, great characters, great writing, Greg Rucka, hard to go wrong with his stuff. Critical Space, the Atticus Kodiak series, fantastic, and really grows and changes throughout the series. And that's it. That is everything that I read in October of 2001. My question for this video is, what kind of mashup would you be interested in seeing in a work of fiction? It's an odd question, possibly something most people haven't thought about, but I would say I mean, I've seen a lot of really good mashups. Some of them are going to come up on the list, of course. But I like horror mashups, horror westerns, horror mysteries, sort of paranormal mysteries, which aren't necessarily that horrific. If anyone has like a paranormal detective type of story that's actually like leans heavy into the horror, let me know about that. I suppose possibly Clive Barker's stuff with what's his name? I can't think of the Harry D'Amour. Um, but mash up stuff. Pulp characters in modern times? Maybe I like that. In Dark or not Dark Avengers, Savage Avengers for Marvel Comics, they had Conan was thrown into the present day. That was fun. I was just glancing over at my Tarzan and Doc Savage and stuff. Um, I don't know. Science fiction and horror. I tend to go back to just horror mashed up with things. Of course, I question inspired by Zeppelin's West. Um, there's a lot of interesting mashups out there. I have a book. I haven't actually even read it yet. That was inspired by Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. That's, I think, a horror take on different classic works. So horror mashups with classics. Um, I don't know. Let me know if you can think of anything down in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. If you're on Blue Sky, I am @EL Smith. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.